All right, good morning, everyone. Today is day 24 of our online AWD1100 C# programming class at Rankin Technical College. Today, I'm going to go over at least a minimum of 3 programs that are related to Murach Chapter 8. The first one will be yesterday, right before the end of class, we wrote a program where it was a console program where we added 25 numbers. And then we got things like the highest number, the lowest number, put them in ascending or descending order, gave you the sum of the elements and the average of the elements. We're going to do all those and a few more things. So we'll start building that in just a couple minutes. And then after we do that, we're going to take a look at the extra exercises that are at the end of chapter 8 that come with the PDF that comes with the Murach text. So that's the plan today. And if there's any extra time, don't worry, I got plenty of stuff for us to do. All right. It also mentions here that attached to this email is the chapter 8 homework. So let's take a quick look at that. There are 6 problems on it. All right. The first one says, and with all these, you are expected to use one or more arrays. All right. So you've got zip codes and charges. So in other words, if I come in here and put in a zip code and click calculate, if it's one of the ones that's in here, the associated charge should come up. So if I put in 63109 and click the calculate button, $15 should come up. That kind of an idea. And it should also handle no input. And it will also, if there are, let's say I put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which isn't in the list. All right. So that's the first one. The second one is very similar to ones that we've done before. All right. This is a thing for a resort that says that if you stay at a resort 1 or 2 nights, your charge will be $200 if it's a single night, or $400 if it's 2 nights. Then if you stay 3 or 4 nights, if you stay 3 nights at $180 a night, it's $540, and 4 nights it'd be $720. 5 to 7, it's 160 per night, and 8 or more, it's 145 per night, again, etc. So you come in here and you say the number of nights that you stayed. All right. And based on that, so let's say that I put in here a 4. It should come in and basically say that it's 3 or 4 nights. You can put that in there any way you want. And the charge, so 3 or 4 is 180 a night. So 4 times 180 would be 720. Again, you should handle negative input, no input, or non-numeric input in there also. All right, this one is one that we're going to do together. And it's the first time you've really seen in any kind of an assignment the word database. Now, that said, this isn't a real database. What we're going to do is we're going to create, in this case, there'll be 3 arrays that we're going to create. A string array called something like game name, a string array called publisher, and a string array called price. All right. And then you'll create an interface that basically looks like this. As always, this will be a text box. That's a button right there. All right, really, you should add all the buttons. But so if you put in Tour of Duty, or Call of Duty, I guess it is, and click search, it should look through the names and it should look through the publishers. And there is a Call of Duty right here. Since there is, it should say Call of Duty Black Ops 2, like it does here for the name. The publisher should say Activision, and the price should say $60. All right, if you come in here and you put in something like they've used as an example here, Warframe, which doesn't exist, then for the name, the publisher, and the price, it should say game not found for each one of these. You should be able to search either by name or by publisher, and you can do partial searches. So in other words, if I came in here, right here, and I typed in Riot, it should find Riot games, or Blue, it should find Bluehole, etc. All right, we'll do that one together. Then the next one is very similar to this, but I'm going to ask you to do this. And that is, I want you to put in about 10 or so movies. Again, you'll put them into 3 arrays. You have, again, an array called names, an array called directors, and one called descriptions, or something like that. And again, you'll be able to search either by name or by director, not by description, but the other. And if you find it, you'll put all the information in. If you don't find it, it'll say movie not found. All right. Finally, the last 2 that are in here, and I'm going to show you all mine, not today, but before we go over a couple of them, I'm going to show you all the ones that I did. I made my buttons in here real big. It's a fortune cookie program. And I put an image on the open button. So rather than open, it looks like a fortune cookie. So you'll create a string array with these 12 sayings in it. And every time you click open, it'll randomly choose any 2 of these sayings and put them down here. So a simple interface with just 3 buttons and either a text box down here that's read only or a label. It's up to you. All right. Then finally, the last one. And in this one, again, simple interface, looks very similar to the one before it, except now we've got a text box up above here, and you can type in whatever you want to type in. And then what it's going to do is it's going to come in, and as it says, you might want to look up the split method here. I used it. So it's going to break these up here based off of what? It's basing it off of a blank space. Okay, then it's taking all the words you put in and it's putting them in alphabetic order. All right, and again, I will show you examples. I've got them all done already. So I will show you what each one looks like when we get to that point. All right. All right. So for the rest of this week, all right, for the rest of this week, we will be working on this chapter. The way that I'm looking at it right now is at a minimum, like I said, we'll do these 3 problems today, and then we'll see where we are. We'll do some more problems tomorrow. Probably on Thursday, I'll do a couple of the homework problems with you. I won't save those, but everything else we're working on, I'll save. Somebody had sent me an email, and for example, on this assignment, there are 6 programs. Even if we do 2 of them together, you are still expected to do all 6. And again, I've gotten emails from people, you didn't grade mine. Well, a lot of times the reason I don't grade something is because it is so incompletely done. I don't know if you'd want to grade. So if it's worth, let's say 10 points, do you want a 2? All right, I guess I could give you that. All right. I have been grading. I've got 2 or 3 more tests for chapter 6 to 7 to go. If you look at your grade sheet, it's an inside ranking, and if it's got a 0 for the test, I didn't receive one from you. If you turn around and go, yeah, you did, then send it again and make sure that you've sent me, that I get an invitation to it, please. I'm going to go through the last 2 or 3 this afternoon. Then I'm going to go back to the chapters 4 and 5 tests because some people didn't do those. I'm going to go back and see if anyone has redone those. Then I'm going to go and look at the chapters 4 and 5 homework and the chapters 6 and 7 homework. My goal is by the end of this week to be again totally caught up on grading. So remember, as it says here, we took the test now. Tomorrow it'll be a week ago. All right. Your homework was due last Sunday from 6 and 7. Your completed chapter 8 homework will be due next Monday, and there is no class next Monday, the 19th. Rankin is closed in observance of President's Day. All right. So again, yesterday when we came in, I think this is it, but let's find out. Yep. This is the one that we did together. I'm not going to spend, more than a minute on it. All right. But when we brought it up, it looks like this. I didn't play with it and fix the spacing, etc. But it displays 25 numbers in their original order. Then it puts them in ascending order. Then it puts them in descending order. Then it gave you the smallest value, then the largest value, then the sum of all the values, and finally the average of all the values. And if you hit enter again, it gives you 25 more numbers, and it allows you to go through the whole process again. This was a console program. It had in it 3 constants, 25, which was our array size. We pretended that these were test scores, so 0 for a minimum score, 100 for a maximum score. All right. And then we had this array, which was global, and we're using it all over the place. It's not that you can never have global variables. For instance, if I've got 8 or 9, whatever it is, routines in here, and let's say 5 or 6 of them use the array, then it doesn't make sense to be passing it back and forth. It makes more sense to make it global. There's a fine line. If I'm only going to put, let's say the only place that the array is going to be used is here, then I probably don't want it to be global. All right, but there's no universal agreement as to, okay, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 routines. 3 of them use the array. Should I make it global or should I not? As always, it's your decision on how to do it, unless you're told not to have any global variables whatsoever. So we initialized the array, and all we did here was we generated 25 random numbers, and then we displayed them. So this was that display that was called by anytime we were working with the entire array. Sorted it with an array.sort. So this is the array class, and it's using the sort method of the array class, and we're telling it to sort the numbers array. So that automatically sorts it. So the numbers array has changed, so it's now in ascending order, and then we display that. Then we do it again, and we sort it, but then we reverse it. Technically, we didn't have to do this one right here, and we didn't have to do it because previously we'd already sorted it. All right. But if this puts it in ascending order, when we reverse it, it's now in descending order. All right. Then we got the smallest. And again, there's different ways of doing this. We didn't have to do a sort for the largest and the smallest. What we could have done is gone through the entire array and, set the first one to the smallest and then check numbers 2 through 25, the elements, or let's set the 0th one to the smallest, and then check elements 1 to 24. And if you find a smaller one, it becomes the new smallest, or a larger one, it becomes the new largest. Probably the most straightforward on all these was the sum, because all that's doing, imagine that we just generated the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way through 25. Then this would be saying sum is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus all the way to 25. All right. And then finally, we did the average. And this was the one time that I did come back here and I used not the array. All right. But I did make the sum global. So we didn't have to redo the sum. We didn't have to do it that way, but it's just the way I decided to do it. And then the average was that sum divided by the length of the array. Numbers.length is the same thing as saying size, which is the same thing as saying 25. All right. So that was the one that we did yesterday. So let's go onward. And we're going to do this again, though we're going to do it as a GUI application. And I call that one console app 1, I guess. I don't know why, but I did. So we'll call this GUI app 1. All right, so there that one is. Now I'm going to change the way this looks a little bit. All right, I'm going to move that way down here. I'm going to move that down. And I'm going to make it at least a little bit thinner here, about like that. All right, I'm just eyeballing it. But I'm immediately going to come in and change the name of my form. Remember, you should always do that first. So I'm going to call this FRM Array GUI. All right, answering yes. I'm going to come here and I'm going to immediately change the text on here to Array GUI. Changed it, of course, up here. And I'm going to change the background color. Doesn't matter what we make it. Let's just make it yellow because that appears to come out there pretty well. All right, now the next thing I'm going to put in here is something we have not gone over yet. It's something that's discussed. It's either in chapters 9 or 10. but I think you all can understand what it is, and that is it's going to be a list box. And all this is going to do right there, all that's going to do is it's going to list the 25 numbers that we're going to put in here. That's its sole job. All right. And we're not, we'll add the numbers to it, etc. But there's nothing special that it is going to do itself. Typically with a list box, you start it with LST. So I'm going to put in here LST numbers. And you'll notice as soon as I hit enter in a minute, this will change from list box 1 to LST numbers. All right. Now, probably the biggest one we've had as far as what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add, literally, I'm going to add here 13 buttons. Whoops, well, that was great. That's all right, we'll fix that in a minute. I'm just eyeballing this. It's not too bad. It's not great. All right. And then these right here, these 6, I'm going to put them right next to it. So about right there. All right. It's a little wider than I think I have to make it. So I'll put it about like that. All right. And let's highlight everything. And as I always do, I'm going to change my font size. All right. So we've got that. Now I'm looking here and I want to move this up. There we go. All right. That doesn't look too bad. It's not great, but it's sure as heck isn't terrible either. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to lock my interface into place now. Okay. And start working on this. This first button that you see right here, this is going to allow me to put in the original array. So in other words, at any time, if I want to see what the array originally looked like, all right, if I want to see what it originally looked like, then I'm going to be able to click that button. All right. So what I'm going to do is a little bit different. I'm going to just right here on all of these first. Okay. Because there's a lot of buttons here. So that's going to be original. This is going to be ascending. And it looks like I didn't make it big enough. So let's just put it ASC. Make these nice and small. So ASC. This is going to be descending. So it'll be DESC. All right. This is going to be the smallest. This is going to be the largest. All right, this is going to be the sum, and the last one will be the average. All right, this will be the range. This will be the median, which is basically the one in the middle. This is going to be a search that we're going to use VB for. I don't know if this will be big enough, but we're going to try it. Nope. So I'll just call this VBS for Visual Basic Search. This will be a C# search. This will be clear. And finally, this will be exit. Now I'm going to rename them or name them in just a second. I'm not worried on this particular example that we're going over right here about setting it up for the underscore. You could do that on your own if you wanted to. I'm just going to leave this the way it is. All right. Okay. So I'm going to start here. We've already renamed this one LST numbers. So this one, I'm going to just move this way the heck over. So you'll be able to see hopefully everything that I'm doing here. All right. And I'm going to call this BTN original array. All right. This one will be called BTN sort ascending. This will be called BTN sort descending. All right. This will be called BTN smallest element. Try that again. Which makes this will be called BTN sum of elements. All right. This will be called BTN average of elements. All right. And I'm just going to put AVG there. So BTN AVG of elements. All right. This one here will be BTN range. This will be BTN median. All right. This will be called BTN. We'll call it visual basic search. Try that again. This will be called BTN C# search. Remember, we can't put special characters in here, so I'll actually spell out sharp. This will be our BTN clear. And this will be our BTN exit. That's everything. All right. I think that's okay. So let's see. We'll set it up in here as always so that it comes in the middle of the screen by setting position to center screen. I don't really think I need an accept button because I don't know which one. I mean, I can, it doesn't really matter. Let's just put the first button that's there. So BTN original array. All right, for the cancel button, I'll just use clear because that's what we've been using virtually all semester. All right, so that's everything. Now I can set a tab order in here. All right, I can. The only thing that really doesn't get a tab order is this. So I'll set one, but I'll just do it in order. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, etc. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and I guess I can set that one. There we go. And a view tab order. All right. Now, if I do come in here and run it, of course, it's totally non-functional. Whoops. And I've got to change my start project. So if I do run this now, there it is. All right. So ideally, when we run this now, I want you to understand this, that ideally now, when we run this, what is going to happen, all right, is even right from the start, this is going to fill up with 25 numbers. All right. That's what's going to happen right away. All right. So let's start writing the code, hopefully at least, to do that. Now, I don't want this button 3 click. Some of you have been leaving that stuff in here. And again, that's garbage. So I'm going to go over to my design. I don't know which one was button 3, which kind of makes it hard. But I'm going to go over here to my lightning bolt, start clicking, and hopefully I'll find it. There it is. So I'm going to highlight all of it and hit delete. And you'll notice now it's gone. All right. Sometimes it does leave, sometimes it doesn't. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm just going to put a real simple comment right here. All right. And it's just going to say GUI based C# array program. Okay, didn't even have to do that, but that's what I'll put in there. All right. Again, some people still are confused. You cannot add any of your own code in here. You've got to come down into the partial class here and add it. So I'm going to, as we always do, declare and program constants. Let me move this over. And we'll even move this over. All right, so I had a const integer called size. And there will be 25 numbers in here. So I said size equal to 25. All right, I had a const in min. So the smallest number we're going to allow, and that'll be 0. And a const in max, which is 100. All right, nothing new there. Now I could have called them test grade or something else. It doesn't really matter. All right. And I did have in here, I have 3 class level variables. All right. First is the array that we're going to create in the. All right. Now, the next thing we're going to do, if you look back on here, we want to be able to put this right here. We want to be able to put that in its original. When we click that button, we want the original array to print. Well, we're going to be manipulating it with all the other buttons. All right. So I need an original array, and I basically need a copy of the original array. The original is going to be numbers, and we're going to make a copy as well. So I'm going to say here int bracket bracket, and I called it what it is. So copy. All right, just like that. And then we're going to have one more thing, and one more int that I called search value. We'll get into that later. All right, I don't want to talk about that right now, but you will see it before the end of the period today. All right, so those are both all of our constants. And you can see since we're using size here and here, that's no longer grayed out, but we're not using min, max, numbers, copy, or search value, so they're still all gray. All right, so the first thing that I want to do in here, all right, is what do I want to do? What do I literally want to do when I click this button? All right, that's something to think about. Now, again, what do I want to do when I click that button? Hopefully, if somebody wanted to get in, they got in. Okay, so what I want to have happen is I want to put in every single time I put in the original array, well, it may have been changed in here. It may not have. I don't know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear this thing first, and then I'm going to display the original array in here. That's what I want to do when I click this. All right. And what does that mean? Okay, well, I want to clear the list box, and I'll get an error because we don't have that written yet, but we will in just a minute. So clear list box, and then I want to display the array. All right, now we haven't written again either one of those yet. So let's come down here, and you'll notice that the IntelliSense is already trying to help me with clearing the list box. And as far as doing that, all right, as far as going in and actually clearing the list box, it's not really very hard to do. All right, we should be able to just come in and tell it to clear. What does that mean? All right, that means we should be able to come in here and do this. I think if I'd said lst numbers dot, I don't know if there is a dot clear or not in here. See, it says clear selected. Nah, I don't want that because I'm not sure even what that does. So I'm going to go through and manually clear it out. All right, so I'll put a comment here that says clear out whatever is currently in the LST numbers list box. All right. And we're going to do this by putting it into a loop. All right. So we're going through the whole thing and we're going to say LST numbers dot items dot clear. And that will clear out each value that's in there. We're going to manually be filling this up. I want to say that again. We are going to manually be filling that thing up. All right. It is possible, like let's say, for example, that we weren't going to have different numbers. Let's just say we wanted 25 numbers in here. Then you can come in here and list boxes have what's called an items property. So we could go over to items and notice it says collection. And if you click there, that's the list box. So if I did come in here and type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I said, okay, notice what happens. Well, we don't want to do that, but we could is what I'm telling you. So I'm going to remove what's in there. All right. Again, I'm just trying to explain a couple of things to you. Okay. All right. So the other thing that we want to do is we want to come in here and we want to display the array. Now, this is where it's a little bit interesting. That's me talking. You may not agree that this is interesting, but this, when I click this button, I want the original array to come in here. When I click any of these other buttons that are here, we're not going to be working with the original array. We're going to be working with the copy of the array. All right. But when I display the array, which is what I'm calling here, the system needs to know which array are we going to display. All right. So in this case, I want to display the numbers array. Now, I've already got an error here because we haven't written this yet. I'm going to put that down here. So I'm going to say private void display array. All right, now I have to let it know it's an integer array. All right, and it's called numbers, but we don't have to call it numbers. We can just call it N for numbers. We can call it numbers, so if that makes you feel better, you can do that. All right, how are we going to clear it, or how are we going to fill this up? All right, well, we want to tell it to display everything that's in there. I want to say that again. We want it to display everything that's in the array. In fact, sometimes it's going to be the numbers array. Sometimes it's going to be the copy array. So let's just call it ARR because it's going to be an array. All right. So I'm going to put a for loop in here. In fact, let's steal the one that we just did. All right. So that's telling us to go through the entire thing. And we don't want to say numbers here. We can say here, it wouldn't matter. We could say numbers. It doesn't hurt anything. But I'm going to do it like that. All right. Now I'm going to say LST numbers dot items. We just said before dot clear. Now we're going to say dot add. And that's telling it to add the current array element value to the list box. Now, what I just showed you there may make almost no sense to you. And that's actually is okay. All right. Even if it doesn't make much sense to you, it's okay. All right. But what we want to do, I mean, right now, I'm missing a curly brace. There we go. All right. Right now, if we ran this, nothing's going to happen. We've never told it. Right here, we're telling it to grab that stuff and fill it in. But what we need in there, for lack of better words, is we need a method that will fill the array. Not only that, we want this array to be filled up as soon as the program starts running. So I'm going to double click on here, and it's going to bring up the load event. All right. And in that load event, I'm going to go and call a routine called fill array. all right, which I better write because I'm getting an error right now. So private void fill array. This is where we want to go and fill the array up with 25 numbers, 25 random numbers. All right. So the first thing we have to do is what's called seed the rand. And what that is doing is we're going to type in this random rand equals new random. All right. That may make little to no sense, but what it's saying now is once we use this rand, we can now use all of the different random number functions with it. We only want to use one of these functions, and we'll put it in just a minute. All right. But we got to watch it, because if we don't watch it, every time we click something, it's just going to keep adding to this and adding and adding. We don't want that. We want it to give you something brand new every time. So we're going to call that clear list box that we just wrote. We want to make sure we're always starting out with a brand new list box. All right. Now we want to fill up both arrays with the same 25 random numbers between 0 and 100. All right. So again, I'm going to come down and grab that for loop that we did. All right. Now we have to fill up both arrays. Okay. I want to say that again. We have to come in here and fill up both of the arrays. So the numbers array is going to be filled up like this. So numbers LCV equals rand dot next. All right. But we want it to be between 0, which is min, and 100, which is not max. It's max plus 1. Oops, that's not what we want. There we go. All right, with a semicolon. That's going to go in. You're going to see it in a minute, okay? But that is going to go and fill up the array with 25 random numbers. Now, what we don't want to do is this. And then just put in here this, because that'd be 25 different random numbers. We want to take whatever was put in here and we want to copy it into here. And notice the IntelliSense can already figure that out for us. All right. And then finally, we want to fill up the list box. Okay, so here, then fill up the list box. All right. So how do we do that? The name of our list box, LST numbers dot items dot add numbers LCV. We could actually do either one because they're the same thing. All right. Now, I don't know if it works, but it should. So that's fill array that we're calling when the form loads. Okay, so I'm going to do a file, save all right here, and run the program. Hopefully we'll have 25 numbers in there. There they are. Okay. Well, as you can see, this is a little bit too big, so I'm going to shrink this size down in just a second. All right. And notice if I click, all right, that's giving me the original array. All right, we haven't changed it yet. So let me do this. Let me go back to here and change the size in here, which is currently 20. And I'm going to make it about 16 and see if that's going to be. Let's run it again. Okay, it looks like I can make it 18. Run it again. There's my numbers. All right, so that's working. Okay, now clicking this isn't going to do anything because it's already in the original order. All right, but now we can come in and we can start adding the other stuff in here. All right, and much of this, not all of it, but much of it will go fairly quickly. All right. All right. And you should be able to, I mean, this is my hope at least, that you're going to be able to start figuring this out. All right. So let's start. Let's just do them, work our way down here. So ascending. So let's call, we'll write our own routine here. So we'll call sort array ascending. All right. And as you probably guess, in just a minute, we're going to write the thing for descending and we'll call sort array descending. So let's write this. Now, almost always in here, whoops, almost always in here, all the time, basically, the first thing we're going to want to do is to clear out the list box. So clear list box. All right. And then we're going to run array.sort. Now, which one do we want to sort? We don't want to sort numbers because numbers holds the original array. We're going to be working all the time in here with copy. Okay. All right. And then we want to display it. And which array do we want to display? We want to display copy. Let's see if that one works. So file, save all. There's our original array. We just remember it starts with 36, 53, and 100. There it is in ascending order. If we go back to original, 36, 53, and 100. So right now, these two buttons work. Okay. All right. To try to make my life a little bit easier, I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to come up here now and click the descending. So I'm going to call here sort array descending. And I'm going to go and copy that back in and just change it. So this will be sort array descending. We'll again clear the list box. We'll again do a sort. Then I'll do a reverse. Then we'll display it. All right. Let's see if that one works. There's our original array. There it is in ascending order. So when we hit the descending, it should go 97, 96, 88, 83, 83, etc. And it does. All right. And there's our original array. Okay. So right now what works is this one, and this one. All right. Well, we're 3/13 of the way through here. All right. Now you probably have already noticed this is what I tried, what I coded yesterday. Okay. As I mentioned before, there's really at least two ways of doing the smallest one. The one we're going to use is we'll sort it in ascending order and grab the first element. When we find the largest, we'll sort it into descending order and grab the first element. The other way we could do this, that we could do it, is we could come in and just run through a loop and check every single one of the 25 values, all right, and put it in a for loop. There's not that there's anything wrong with doing that, but it's really making the system do more work than technically it has to do. All right, at least in my opinion, that's the case. So let's come back here again, and now we'll click the smallest. All right, and we'll call find smallest array element, which we haven't written yet. So let's write it. All right, now in this case, I don't have to clear the list box. We're just going to put this into into a message box. And in fact, since we're going to put it into a message box, let me come in and grab this show error message, but I'm just going to call it show message in just a second. So this will be show message. All right, so we want to find the smallest. All right, well, we could do an array.sort. We can do that. All right, but we've already got a routine called sort array ascending, so we can do that, and then just do our show message, the smallest array element, and that's going to be what? It's going to be copy 0. All right. And then we'll put a message in here that says smallest array element. Okay. So we're sorting it and then just grabbing the top one. Okay. So let's see if that works. We've already checked these, but smallest, notice it's not in any order, but as soon as I click smallest, it's now in order, and the smallest array element, 16. All right, that appears to work. So let's do pretty much the same thing. So I'm going to come in here and copy this. And I'm going to put, instead of find smallest, I'm going to change this to find largest array element. We're going to call sort descending. And then we're going to say the largest array element is, and this will say largest element. All right, now the only thing we have to do is to come back here now, click this button, and it'll say find largest array element. Let's check that one out. All right, again, it's not in any order. There's ascending, there's descending, there's ascending again. The smallest is 3. So notice the largest should be 84. And indeed it is. All right, so really, I mean, we've been going at this now for probably about maybe a half an hour. And we've already gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the things in here are now finished. All right, so we're working, I think, at least at a pretty quick clip. All right, so we want to do sum and average next. Now we don't know what order the user is necessarily going to click these buttons in. They could go up and down, they could go across, they could go in any kind of random order. And that actually does matter. I'll show you why right now. So here's the sum. All right, so I'm going to call here sum of array elements. All right, but when I call it, I'm going to pass it in a number. Now, why would I do that? Why would I pass in a number? Well, I want to be able to call sum of array elements both for doing the sum and for doing the average. So in just a minute, when I call the sum of array elements, I'm going to pass in a number 2 instead of a number 1. All right. So that's sum of array elements. In fact, let's just put that one right underneath it. So this is also going to call sum of array elements, but instead of passing in a 1, it's going to pass in a 2. All right. And then let's write that down here. So private void sum of array elements. All right. And I'm just going to put an int in here. I'm just going to call it number. It doesn't matter what you call that. Okay. All right. So the reason I'm telling you this is I want to be able to use this same routine, and that should have an S on the end. That's why I'm getting those errors. There we go. I want to be able to use this same sum of elements, and it'll either print out the sum of all elements if that num is equal to 1, or the average of all elements if that num is equal to 2. Did we have to do it like that? Of course not. All right, I'm just trying to make my life a little easier. You may or may not agree with that. All right, and I've said this kind of thing before. I'm not trying to be funny here. I don't think this is funny. Typically, there are not going to be any programming police. So if you're writing an application someplace and you decide to do it a certain way, all right, there's not going to be, probably, there's not going to be somebody who's going to look at it and go, I wouldn't have done it that way. And if they say that, you're like, okay. I had to write, when one of my first programming jobs, I had to write this order entry system, and I didn't know the best way to do it. Guy who had been to the company had been there for many years, and I said, "What would you recommend?" And he said, "Well, I do a finite state machine," and he walked away, and I was like, "What the hell is a finite state machine?" So I looked it up, and I ended up writing the program that way, and it was a good way to do it. Was it the only way of doing it? Of course not. There's plenty of ways that it could be done, but it was the way he recommended, and I respected this guy, so I ended up doing it that way. All right, so I'm going to have here int sum equals 0, decimal average AVG will be equal to 0, okay, 0.00m. All right. Now I'm going to put a for loop in here that's going to do our sum. And because I guess I'm lazy today, I'm going to try to find that same for loop that we did before. Whoops, that same one. All right. And now I can say sum plus equal copy LCV. And again, what that's doing is it's adding up every element that is in the array, which is exactly what I want to be doing right now. All right. So now I've got the sum. So I'm going to say here, if num, that's that thing we passed in right here. That's either going to be a 2 or a 1. So if num is equal to 1, then I'm going to call our show message, and it's going to say the sum of all array elements. Oh boy, Jeff. And it'll be sum. I'll put a .toString on there. It would work without it, but I'll put that in there. It's a cleaner way of doing it. And then I'll put here sum of all array elements. So that should handle the sum. All right. Now I'm going to put an else in here, but I'm going to put an else with an if. So I'm going to say else if num equal, oopsie, equal 2. Why did I make that an else if instead of an else? I didn't have to. It would have worked fine as an else if. All right. But the reason that we're going to be doing other things in here, we will be working with variance and standard deviation and a lot of mathematical terms that by and large, I don't even know what the heck they are. All right. Now I want to say here the average, and this will be AVG, but oops, I didn't figure out the average yet. Right now, it's going to say that the average is 0, which isn't going to be right. So the average is equal to the sum divided by copy.length. But remember, that's technically wrong because that's an int divided by an int. So it's going to throw away any decimal portion. So I will cast this to type decimal. All right. And here we'll put AVG to string. And we'll put this in here as an N2, so the 2 decimal places. Now, I'm not right now, okay, when we do this, I'm not using string interpolation. We could be using it all over the place. I just did it the way I did it. So let's see if these two things work. Again, so our ascending works, our descending works, our smallest is 7, our largest is 99. Typically, the sum is going to be somewhere between 1150 and 50. 98. All right, so it should be a little under 50. 42.92. All right, I probably didn't need to have those tabs there, but it looks okay. So now we've got all of this done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which means we have 6 left. All right, let me go just for a minute or two longer because these are not hard. All right, what I mean is especially this one. This is the biggest one minus the smallest one. I want to say that again. That's all it is it's the biggest one minus the smallest one. So let's do this. So I'll call this display, display array range, which again doesn't exist. So we're going to make it right below. All right. And the range again is just the biggest minus the smallest. All right. So I'll put here int range. I'm not even going to give it a value. I'm going to start by clearing my list box. Then I'm going to do an array.sort. And I'll do it on the copy array. And then I'll display the array so you can see it. But the range is just going to be equal to, all right, it's going to be equal to the last one there minus the first one. All right, what does that mean? Copy, and I can put in here copy.length, length minus 1 minus copy 0. All right, and I forgot an equal sign there. So what that is saying in English, it's easier for me to show it to you, and so I will in a second. So this will say the range of all elements is, and we'll put in here range.toString. We don't need any n2. It's going to be a whole number. Let's get rid of these \t's that are in here. I'm just going to replace those with just a space. Okay, so this will say range. Let's see if that works, and then we're taking a break. All right, original, ascending, back to original, ascending, descending, smallest, 17, largest, 98, sum, 1180, average, 4720. Now, our range should be 98 minus 17, the biggest minus the smallest. 98 minus 17, if I did my math right, I think that's 81. So range is 81. All right, this one minus this one. I could have put it in descending order as well. It doesn't matter. All right, so after we get back from the break in just a couple minutes, but after we get back from the break, we're going to do the median. The median is, you got 25 numbers in here. Technically, the 13th value that's in there is in the middle because there's 12 above it and there's 12 below it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So in this case, it should be 37. Then we're going to learn how we can search for a value to see whether or not it's in here. And we'll do it using both Visual Basic. Why am I showing you Visual Basic? Because I'm showing you how you can bring in a routine from another programming language into your program, which I think at least is kind of cool. All right, and then we'll do it again with C#, and then our clear and our exit aren't going to be much at all. The clearing this, and when we clear it, we'll put in 25 new numbers, and our exit will be our exit. All right, so that's what we'll do after the break. It's 9:04. Let's come back, please, at 9:15, and we'll finish this one up. All right, it's 9:15, so I'm going to start back up. So far, we have our 13 buttons. We have completed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. So I'm going to just click on that one. We're going to do that one next, but I'm going to just click on all the rest of them. So I've got them all in here. And in fact, because it's pretty simple, let's do the clear. All right, so we'll do our clear form. And that's just going to be to clear the list box. And when we clear the list box, all right, that should clear the list box. And then, oh, what else do we want to do in there? We want to fill the array up, right? So we should clear the list box and then call fill array. So we get 25 new numbers. And for our exit, I'm just going to do the old exit program or not. And I'm going to grab what I've given you earlier in the semester from here. So that's right here. Let's get those two out of the way. All right, let's double check and make sure they both work. So when I click clear, these should all be different numbers. You can see they are. So that appears to work. And exit, no. Exit, yes. Okay, so all that works. Good. So let's just do, we've got just these three to go. All right, so for the median, let's call find median array element. All right, and that'll be down here. All right, not really, I don't think at least, not a whole heck of a lot that we have to do in here. All right, we just got to grab the middle element. All right, so int median. Okay, I'm not going to set it to anything. Let's clear the list box right away. Let's do our sort array ascending. So we put that in the ascending order and we'll display it. Back when we do the sort array ascending, it's going to need to know which one we want to do here. So I think we've already set it up that it's doing it on copy every time, but let's check. List, but yep, that's good. That's, there it is. Okay, good. So it's already calling display. So I think we said to call it display again. We don't really have to do that. So I don't have to call that. All right, I did it in, it doesn't hurt anything, but it's just writing it and then overwriting it again. So the median is going to be equal to copy, and it's the one in the middle, which is 12. All right. And then I can just say a show message with the median of the array is. So again, that'll be median. Let's see if that works. All right, let's put it first just so you see it in ascending order. So it should be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Should be 51. And indeed it is. All right. Okay, so that's done. So what's left then are these two right here. Okay. Now, the first thing I want to show you is what has happened over the years is C# has gotten to be a much more versatile language where it provides a lot of stuff that in some of the earlier versions it did not provide. All right. Well, I looked for a while before they had this binary search, and I looked for some kind of a search function and didn't find it. But I remembered back in the day when I taught visualbasic.net for this class instead of C# that they had basically a search type of thing. All right. So that's why I decided to basically set it up so that you're going to be able to either come in here and do a Visual Basic search or do a C# search. Now, again, is that neat a thing? Not really. All right. But again, this is doing is it's going to allow us to use something that exists not in this language, but in another language. And again, is that cool, not cool? That's, figure that out yourselves. How's that? All right. But one of the things, this is probably in here going to be the one time that we're going to want to come in here and we're going to want to check to see if either what if we leave it empty? So it says, what element you want to search for, and we leave it empty. Well, that isn't good. How about what if we put in something non-numeric? Well, that isn't good. What if we put in a negative number or a number greater than 100? That isn't good. So what this is going to allow us to do also is we're going to have in both, whether we click this button or whether we click this button, one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to call our own routine that's going to be called prepare for search. And if we pass it in a 1, we want to do a Visual Basic search. And if we pass it in a 2, we want to do a C# search. But we can put this into a try-catch block so we can catch a format exception, an argument null exception, or an argument out of range exception. So these exception handlers that we learned previously in chapters 6 and 7, they're not going away. All right. And if we don't want to do it with that, okay, we could just come in there and, for example, we could use the generic functions. Is present, all right, is in 32, and is within range. We could do that either way. All right. But one of the things that I want to show you here is right here. If I go in and take my mouse and I right mouse click on the name of our app right here, I right mouse click and I'm going to choose here add, and you've not seen this before. All right. I'm going to go down to where it says reference, and it's going to give me this big hairy thing here. These are all of the things that are available to us in this language. So everything that's checked, we're using. Microsoft C#, system, system.core, system.data. There's a bunch of junk. We don't have to worry about what any of them are. All right. But if we come in here and we type in Visual Basic, you'll notice that when we start to look, there's one that says Microsoft Visual Basic. We want that one. So we can use some of the stuff that exists in Visual Basic in our program. So I went and right mouse clicked on the name of the project. I went down and chose add and chose reference. Then in the search box in the upper right hand corner, I put in and I'm choosing the first one, Microsoft Visual Basic. And I'm clicking OK. Now, nothing magical happened. It didn't put anything into our program. We're going to have to add something in our program ourselves. What are we going to have to add? Well, right now, we only have this, system and system Windows Forms. This is just a given. It's just all the different things that are available to us. This is all the stuff available for forms. Now, I should have done this earlier and didn't, but now if I type in using, notice there's Microsoft. It wasn't there before we just added that reference. And I can say dot, and notice one of the things that's in there, Visual Basic. So we'll be able to use that. It's gray right now because we're not using it for anything, and that's okay. All right. All right. So we want to be able to come in and we want to do our Visual Basic search. And then in just a couple minutes, we'll want to be able to come in and we will want to do our C# search. All right. So we're going to want to do one or the other. That's what's left to do in here. All right. I'm going to write a routine down here, down below both of them. right down here, that I'm going to call prepare for search. And it's going to return bool, meaning that what we put in there for searching is a number, and it's between 0 and 100. If it returns false, either we put in a number out of range, or we put in a number that something that was non-numeric, or we left it blank. All right, and I just call this prepare for search. All right, and I passed in a number in num. Why? Because if it's a one, I'm going to be coming in here and attempting to do a search for Visual Basic. And if it's a 2, I'm going to be coming in here and attempting to do a search for C#. All right. Well, either way, when you search, I want to clear the list box. I want to call my, try that again. Clear the list box, call my sort array ascending. All right, because when you do these searches, they have to be in ascending order. All right, so when we call sort ascending, you saw this before. All right, it should put it in ascending order. Let's just see if that's correct. I'm just going to type here for now, return true, so I don't get an error here. All right, and on both of these, I'm going to quickly just call, I'm going to say bool, keep going, equal, prepare for search. And in this case, I'm going to pass in a 1. All right. And then in this case, I'm going to pass in a 2. All right. What doesn't it like? Prepare for search, prepare for search. It says prepare for search does not exist in the current context. Okay, don't know if I spelled it wrong or what. Let's just see if indeed in both these cases it works. That's all I want to check on. So when I click this, it should put these in ascending order, and it does. Okay, I'll put it back into the original order, and I'm going to click this one to see if it puts it into ascending order. Okay, good. So far, they both work. And again, you might say, well, fine, that was pretty simple. Why the heck did you even do that? I'm going to build this very incrementally. All right, so I've now come in, I've cleared the list box. I've cleared it. I put the numbers that in there in ascending order, and I've displayed them. All right. Now, when you do this stuff, okay, I'm going to tell it where I'm going to have it come up, and I'm going to have it show me a message box. All right. And if you say, I don't understand what you're doing, give me just a second. Okay. All right. So I'm in my prepare for search. I don't want this in here anymore. As soon as I get rid of it, I'm going to get an error back because I'm not returning anything. That's okay. All right. So I'm going to put in here string, and I'm going to call this message, and it's going to be enter number to search for. All right. I'm literally asking them to enter the number that they want. All right. I'm not going to have any title on this. All right. Why? Because I want it to say either Visual Basic search or VB search for array element, or I want it to say C# search for array element. Well, if we passed in a 1, it should say VB search, and if we passed in a 2, it should say C# search. So I'm going to say here title equal. Well, if the number is equal to 1, all right, then question mark, I want it to say VB search for array element. All right, but If it's not, it better be a 2, and it should say C# search for a element, just like that. All right. Now, it's not that big a thing in here, but again, I'm just for now, I'm going to put in, I'm going to put in return true. All right. Why? So I can come in and again. All right. And again, I'll be able to come in here and basically set this thing up. All right. So if it was a 1, it should be one thing. And if it's a 2, it should be something else. Okay, good. Fine. Now I'm going to come in here and put a little bit more code in, and I'm going to say string search value. And in fact, now that I think about it, search value, did I make that thing global up on top? Yes, there it is. All right. I didn't have to, I don't think, but I did. So why should I redeclare it down here? So I'm going to say search value equal you know what? It's going to be a string at first. So let's put in here string search value str equals. And now this is where I'm going to use something from the other language. Interaction dot input box, our message, our title. And if you don't know what any of this means, you will in a second, because I'd rather run it and show it to you. Default. And let's see if how my measuring is. 450. All right. All right. Now I'm going to run this. Okay. And I'm going to click this. Notice it says VB search for array element, and it's asking me for a number. That's good. That's exactly what I wanted to do. This one, C# search for array element, and it's asking me for it. So far, everything is working. What I did in here is I'm building my own message box type of setup. All right. And again, did we have to do that? No, we didn't have to do it, but I'm doing it to show you how you can bring in something from a different language. All right. Now, what I probably should have done in here, all right, is I should have encapsulated all of this stuff in here. All right. I should have really put all of it in here inside of a try catch statement. Guess what? I didn't do that. All right. So let's come down to here and see if we can put in what's left into a try catch. So I'm going to put a try here. I don't have this in my copy that I made. Honestly, I'm doing this off the top of my head. So hopefully it'll work. All right. So I want to say here, I'm going to make it real simple for myself. All right. If txt, that isn't txt, what, this thing, that saves string. If search value string is equal to nothing, if there's nothing in there, I'm going to throw, oh boy, THROW, a new argument null exception. I don't want that. All right, which I'll have to catch down here. All right, and I will put in here our show message. And I'll have it say, you must enter a search value. All right, and then we'll put here no search value entered. All right, and I'm just going to return false because there's no sense in going on. All right. I can put that message in there if I want. So again, as I've been doing, I've done this several times. So we'll do it like this. We'll say system message. All right. And then a couple blank lines like that. So let's see if that works. Like I said, doing it off the top of my head, it may be screwed up, but we'll see. All right, nothing in there. I'm going to leave it blank. System message value cannot be null. You must enter a value, a search value. Let's try it the other way. Okay, so that's good. And in fact, let's put down the type of message that it was. So this, it will say here, argument, null, exception. Okay, well, now we've handled that. Okay, now we can say if, well, we have to actually do that result thing. So remember, result equal, it'll be an int 32 dot try parse. Okay, we're going to do that, and we're going to put this into that search value that we had. Okay, so we're trying to grab, now we're saying, if we get down to here, they put something in there. We're going to try to make sure it was numeric. So here, we are going to check for no input in message box. And then here, we're going to check for non-numeric input in the message box. All right, so if not result, now I'm going to throw a new format exception. All right, so we'll have to catch that. And it'll have to become FE. And again, this will be format exception. All right, let's try that one. You must enter a number. Good. Good. So that's working also. All right, so the last one to check for then is an out of range exception. Which means they put in a number they either put in a number that's less than 0 or a number that's greater than 100. Search value is less than min or it's greater than max. So if that's the case, now we're going to throw a new argument out of range exception. So as always, we have to also look for that one. Right, so let's check that one. All right, that showed the out of range. Well, it looks goofy there, but we'll fix that in a minute. And let's try for that one. All right, it's catching it, so that's good. I've got two pluses in there. That's why neither one of those should be in there. There we go. All right, so we came up here. We're telling them to put in a number. If there's nothing in there, we're throwing an argument null exception, okay? And we'll eventually return false. If it's non-numeric, we're throwing a format exception, and again, we're returning false. If it's out of range, we're throwing an argument out of range exception, and again, returning false. All right, so if we get down, and this was not true, and this was not true, and this was not true, now we know we're right here. We have put a number in that is a valid number. We have put in a valid number, so we can just return true. All right, we're not done with our searching yet because we have to search differently for VB as opposed to C#. But the point is, all right, the point is now we can come in and do our searching. Okay, so that's all good, fine and dandy. So we prepared for the search, which either returned true if we put in a number between 0 and 100, or false if we didn't. All right, so let's go back to these. Okay, now, if not, keep going, meaning it returned false. So if that's the case, we're done. Just return. All right, that's all we have to do there. Okay, so now we can come through here, and there's different ways of doing this. I'm going to just show you a manual search here. All right, I'm just going to show you a manual search. Then we will do it for C#, we'll do a binary search. So this will say perform manual search for value. Okay, fine. So did this for loop before, int LCV equals 0, LCV less than copy plus LCV, nothing new there. But if we find it, so if, all right, the search value, we can say in here now, this SV, all right, search value. Let's see, did we have it that we declared that down here, I think. Somewhere we did. All right, so let's see. If our search value, all right, which is what we declared way the hay up here, this search value, but now we have to check it and it has to be a string. We know how to do that. Dot to string. If that is equal to the current array element, we found a match. All right, so we can say show message, the number, and again, that'll be search value dot to string is, oops, is in the array. And our message will be number found. Okay, and we can return. Okay, otherwise, it's not in the array. Okay. So is not in the array. So what doesn't it like here? .toString equal copy LCV. All right, it says equal cannot be applied to operands of types string and int. I'm going to try this. String SV equals search value dot to string, like that. Now I'm going to say SV right here. All right, still doesn't like it. So let's see now what's wrong. Cannot be applied to type string or int. Let's do it then like this. This is what we're going to learn later on this week. Let's see. Dots. Int does not contain a definition for contains. Right. All right. In English, what this is doing is it's going to go through all 25 values in the array if necessary. So let's say I put in 61 in there and 61 was not in the array. It's going to go through and say, is this value 61? No. Is this value 61? No. It'll do it for all 25. And if it doesn't find it, it'll drop out of here and say it's not in the array. Now let's say that 61 was in there, and let's just say it's the first one. Then this will be true. So it'll say the number is in the array, and it'll return. All right. Now we didn't write yet the C# one, but let's see if this one works. To make it easier for myself, I'm going to put this right now in ascending order just so I can see. So what do we want to search for? Let's try 49. And it says the number 49 is not in the array, which means the logic is wrong. All right, let's double check. It says it's not in the array. It's just going to keep saying that. Well, that ain't good. We'll have to fix that, but that's okay. All right. Let's see if we can fix that. I'm stuck now. I'm in an infinite loop for whatever reason. So I'm going to have to close this. Okay. And hopefully that, nope, I closed the wrong one. There it is. Okay, I have to start this up again. So let's look at the logic. I thought it was correct, but it might not be. All right, so it should be checking each value. If it finds it, it should return. Otherwise, it should do this. It's a void. Trying to figure out why it was even in an infinite loop. Because if it finds it, it should say the number was there in return. But this was saying it was not in the array, even though it was. And it was in a loop. I shouldn't have to put the word return here because it's already down at the bottom of the routine. See, it's even unreachable code detected. In line 214, right here. All right, if not, keep going, return, that's fine. This is what's running over and over again. Shouldn't make any sense to put return right here. That doesn't make any sense. But I want to try that anyway. All right, 41. There's still something in there that's causing that to go into an infinite loop. I don't want you to watch me waste my time. Notice when I did that, since to get it out of here, I did a Control-Alt-Delete, and I'm going to Task Manager, and I've got to find my task that's got Visual Basic in it. Choose that, and then go down to End Task. That'll stop the program from running. And I don't know what the problem is. I'll fix it, promise. All right, so before it comes out there, before I put it out there, I will fix it. But rather than you watching me fumble, which is what you've been doing so far, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go write the one for C# right now. All right. Okay, so let's see if this one works. So let's see. First of all, what I should have done, didn't do, but should have done right here, okay, is I should have written this. There's too much. I shouldn't put code in here in the actual button. All right. So if you leave that in there, that's fine. So here we're performing the search. So I'll say here, perform VB search, which of course doesn't exist. So I'll put it right here. All right. And that should work, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. So this is the one for C#. All right. Just like we did before, if it doesn't work, we want to get the heck out, because if it doesn't work, so that keep going was false, well, we know, just like we just talked, or a non-numeric or an out of range. All right, so here we want to perform the C# search, which again does not exist. So we'll put it right below here. See if we can get this one to work. All right, so this will be the C# search. All right. Um, well, let's put it this way. I hope this is going to work. Binary search, copy for search value. All right. Now I'm calling the array methods binary search. What's going to happen is if it does not find the value in there, it should return -1, which means failure. If it returns anything other than -1, it should have succeeded. Now, I'm going to write this, but I'm not going to write it like that. Let me explain why. All right, I'm going to grab just what we had before, which was that the value is in the array or the value is not in the array. So Now, sometimes when you run this, it's supposed to, as I already told you, that if it doesn't find it, it's supposed to put in a -1. Sometimes, for whatever reason, it returns a number other than -1. It's a negative number, but it's not -1. I don't know why that is. All right. So if it returns any negative number, we're saying the number is less than 0, then the number is not in the array. Otherwise, the number is in the array. So either the number was found or the number was not found. C# search, we'll try 41. It is in the array. Well, that's good. That one worked. Let's try it again, and let's put in something that's not in the array. So 42 is not in the array. So those all work. All right. So the only thing I have to do is fix up this VB search. I don't feel too bad about that. This was a lot longer program than the one I wrote. Probably 50 or 60 lines I just wrote, I did off the top of my head, and that's why that's wrong. All right. So let's continue on. So let me do a save all here. And for now, at least, I'm going to close this. Okay. Now, what I want to do next, and like I said, I'll clean this up. You'll get the URL for the GitHub repo, all right, a little later today. But what I want to do next is I want to go through these two problems here. All right. This first problem, very similar to things we've done before. You've seen this already. All right. If you look in here, we've got 4 labels, 4 text boxes. Out of those 4 text boxes, only one can you enter information into. The other 3 are read-only. Every time you want to put in a new score, you click add. All right, and then that should add 1 to your count. That should take the 98 and add it to your score. Then it should take your score total divided by your score count, and that should be your average. Now, if you click display scores, it should display every score, but do them in ascending order. And then clear and exit, both those work the way clear and exit work. All right. So I'm going to build this interface right now. What we're going to do, hopefully, between now and 11:30 or so, is to write this twice. Write it first using an array, and then redo it using a list. The difference between these two is when we do it with an array, we'll put in 10 scores. When we put in the 11th score or attempt to, we're going to get an error message that says index out of range. But when we do this as a list, once we put in 10 scores, when we attempt to put in an 11th, the list size is going to double from 10 to 20, and we'll be able to add that. All right, it's the same project. So we're going to be able to implement much of the logic for both. The interface will be the same for both, etc. All right, I've already got it done, and I'm going to put my finished version out there that I know works. All right, but for now, I'm just going to go in here, oops, and I'm going to put a new folder in. All right, and I'm going to call it EE7 EE8 for extra exercises for chapter 8. All right, and let's start up another version of Visual Studio. New project. It'll be a Windows Forms app. We're going to call this one, just to keep it simple, EE8-1. I'm going to put it into a solution just named EE8. And the folder that we're going to put it into is the one we've just created, which is EE8. So we've got EE8-1 for our project name. All right. We have EE8 for the folder name and EE8 for the solution name. All right, let's create it. Okay. And I don't know if we're going to have to change the size of this or not. I don't think so, but I'm going to change the name of my form right away. FRM-EE8-1. Okay, took that okay, and move that over. And as always, I'm going to make a couple changes on here. I'm going to change the color, just use green, and I'm going to change here the, well, we'll do the start position right away in center screen, and we'll change the text in here that says extra exercises 8-1. Okay. Now I have taken in here, I have taken the comments that are the stuff they put into the text or our PDF, and I have saved that. In fact, I don't even need this. You say, what the heck are you talking about? Well, if you look here, there's the comments for 8-1. So let me bring that into the program. All right, let's take a quick look at this to make sure you know what we're doing here. All right. This is the score calculator that we did many chapters ago. We want it, as it says, saves the scores the user enters into an array and lets them display the sorted scores in a dialog. So I'm going to use a message box. All right. I did the project from scratch, so I didn't do this. Declare a class variable, meaning we'll declare it outside of any it's outside of any method that we have. All right. That can hold 0 to 10 scores, and that's all we care about here. Modify the click event for the add button so that it's within a try catch block and it catches any exception. So again, what does that mean? Well, we could leave the score empty. We could put in a score that was non-numeric. We could that was out of range, kind of what we just did. Then modify the code so that it adds the score that's entered by the user to the next element in the array. To do that, use the score count variable to refer to the current element. Finally, convert the code that refers to the deleted total and use a for each, all right, to add each score in this variable. I don't know if I did that or not, so we'll see in a minute. Modify the clear button so that it works. And really, when we clear, we're only going to want to clear the one text box. All right. Add a display scores button that sorts the scores in the array. Be sure only the elements that contain scores are displayed. So if we put in garbage, don't display it. Test the app to make sure it works correctly. After we've entered more than 10 scores, it should blow up. All right, so let's take a couple minutes here. All right, we'll take, like I said, just a couple minutes, and let's build the interface for this. It's not very difficult. All right, so there are going to be 4 buttons. One of them is going to be down here. The other ones are going to be up here. And this one they made bigger. All right, and then we want up here, we want there to be 4, make this a little bigger anyway. All right. We want there to be 4 labels and 4 text boxes. Not great, but not terrible. That'll work. And 4 text boxes. All right. Okay. Up a little. That doesn't look. So let's this into place. All right, we'll start with the buttons. This will be BTN display scores. Oh, they want the D underlined. All right, and we've got an add, a clear, and an exit. All right, and we've got our 4 labels. I'm going to center them. Try that again. All right, this first one is score, so it'll be LBL score. Which will make this TXT score. All right, the second one will be score total. All right, which will make this TXT score total. All right. Oops, I screwed that up. I should be there. Let's try that again. All right. This will be score count, which will make this TXT score count. And this will be average. I don't like the way they did it in the book, so I'm going to make my average to 2 decimal places. Doesn't really matter that much one way or the other, so. And this will be TXT average. All right, I'm going to do this a little different. I'm just going to click on that, get that out of the way, and that. Come on. And that, get it out of the way, and clear, and exit. All right, I'm going to do the clear one first. You'll see why in just a second. TXT score dot text equals nothing. TXT score total dot text equals nothing. TXT score count dot text equals nothing, and TXT average dot text equals nothing. In fact, I don't even want to do that. I only want to do the first one. All right, we'll just do that score dot text, and then let's set the focus. All right. So that one's done. For the exit, let's just get that one out of the way. It's and yeah, we might have some errors in here, so let's do a show error message as well. All right. Let's come back to here. Let's set our accept button. We'll set it to BTN add. We'll set our cancel button to clear. We've already set it to center screen, and let's set our tab order. These three are going to be read-only fields. So let's make sure we've got them set to read-only. There we go. So our tab order will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. So view tab order 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, view tab order. All right, so I should be able to run it now, and the clear should work, and the exit should work. Let's just double check that. Clear works, and exit works. Good. All right, only one more thing, because I'm quirky this way. I'm going to highlight all those and set my text align to center. All right, so all of that stuff is now done. So let's start writing our code. All right, it is 10:12. I'm going to go till 10:20, and then we're going to take 10 minutes. All right, so taking it from the top here, I'm going to declare and initialize my program constants. And again, just like we did before, so const int size. This one's going to be 10 because there's going to be 10 scores. Const int, and I called them min score and max score. So min score equals 0. Const int max score equals 100. Okay. All right. Then also declare and initialize our class variables. And I had a few of them. All right, so static. I don't know why I made those static. They don't have to be. So here's going to be our array, int bracket bracket, that I just called test scores. And I set it to a new int of size. All right, an int number of elements. It'll make more sense a little later on. That I set equal to 0. Another int for test score count that I again set equal to 0. An int for test score total that I set equal to 0. And a decimal for test score average that I set equal to 0.00m. All right, let's line these babies up. All right. Okay. So what do we want to do? Well, it's up to us with what we want to do first. I've got the display scores here, so I guess I'm going to do those first. You don't have to, but that's just the way I'm going to write it. All right. So what do we want to do here? Well, we want to display the sorted scores, right? So let's call display sorted test scores. All right, which has not been written, so we'll write it here. All right, again, this is designed to show each one of those test scores in sorted order. All right, so let's see. Well, again, I don't want to change the original array, so I'm going to go int bracket bracket, and I called it copy scores. All right, and I set that equal to a new int of size again, and this will be our output string. So these will be the sorted scores. All right, now I'm using one of the things that was mentioned in the book. I'm going to do an array dot copy. What am I copying? I'm copying the test scores array starting from element 0, and I'm copying it to copy scores. All right, starting with element 0, and what? Test scores dot length. In English, this says copy the entire test scores array to the new copy scores array. All right, so that should do that. All right, then I want to sort that. So I can say array dot sort, and I don't want to sort test scores. I want to sort copy scores. All right, and then I can start filling up my output string. Output str equal, and it'll say sorted scores. Why that? Because that's what it showed in the book or in our PDF. Then I'm going to write a for loop, but not a regular for loop. We're told to write a for each. All right, so for each score, all right, I want to add it to my output string. And if you look in here, it's kind of nice. They've already put that in, but I don't want them all on the same line. We're told in the book to have each score on its own line. So I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to call a show. Did we call this error message? I'm just going to call this show message because this is not an error. So I'm going to call show message. Output str sorted test array. Now, maybe that what I just did, maybe it made total sense to you. Maybe it made no sense to you. So let's take a look at it. All right. This is creating a brand new array. What we're going to do is we're going to keep our original array, but we're going to copy the results in from the original array into this array anytime we want to display the scores we have so far. All right. And this is where we'll write it out. Then, as the comment says, we want to copy test scores to copy, and we want to copy the whole thing. Then we're sorting the copy scores array, and we're printing it out. All right, that's it. That's everything that we're doing in here. All right, so what's left? Well, we've already done the clear and we've done the exit. Those are done. So we've got this, and we've got these two. So the only thing that's left is add. All right. Why? Because we want to add a test score. So we'll call here attempt to add test score. All right. Well, we need a score to add. So there that is. But now we're told to put this into a try catch block. All right. It is just about 10:20. I promised you a 10-minute break at 10:20. So let's take a break now. Let's come back at 10:30, and then we'll write this last method. Shouldn't take real long. And then we're going to go over and do some copying so we can get the other one done. So please come back at 10:30. I've got to change my water, so I'll be right back. Thanks. All right, it's 10:30, so I'm going to continue on. Put this whole thing into a try-catch block. All right. Now, what I could do is I could check right away to see if this was empty. And if it was empty, I could throw an argument null exception. And that's fine. I can do that. I've done that several times, but I'm just going to do it like this. I'm going to say here, test score. All right, or score, I guess. We called it score here. Score equal convert dot to int 32 txt score dot text dot trim. So I'm going to attempt to take what I put into that text box and convert it into an int. If I leave it blank, or if there's something non-numeric in it, it's going to throw automatically, it's going to throw a format exception. All right. So I'll just handle that right here. And I'm going to do it the same way that we've been doing it. And that is, I'm going to do my show message. And let's first do the system message. And that's fe.message plus, we'll put a couple line breaks in as I've been doing. All right, then we'll put in our own message. And that one will say, just input non-numeric. Okay. And I'm just going to put again in here the type of exception it was, which was a format exception. All right. Now, when I'm done, oh, what doesn't it like? I need a plus sign there. Sorry. And when I'm done, I can say txt score dot text, just clear it out. It might have been empty already. It might not have been. And I can set the focus. Okay. And actually setting this and setting this, isn't that what I'm doing in clear form? Yep. So let's just call clear form. All right. So that'll handle that. All right. So now I have to worry about two other things. If the score is less than the min test score, or the score is greater than the max test score, well, then I know I'm going to throw an out of range exception. Argument out of range exception. Now, there's a difference here. This one is being thrown by the system. This one I'm throwing. All right. So it's going to be very similar, just my message will be different. So this one will be argument out of range exception, which I call AOORE. And again, we'll put that in there. And this will be an argument out of range exception. All right. So if I've gotten down to here, okay, I put in something that was numeric and it was within range. However, what I want to do here is if I'm trying to put in something that's too big, so in other words, if I've already put in 10 test scores and I try to put in an 11th, I want to throw a new index out of range exception. All right. So I can say here, if number of elements, in fact, I haven't done anything with it. I'm going to write it the way I wrote it before. So if the number of elements if the number of elements, which I think we created up here, didn't we? Number of elements. So if that number of elements is now greater than or equal to, all right, test scores dot length, well, now I'm attempting to do something that's illegal. So I'm going to throw a new index out of range exception, which again, I have to catch. And let's do this again. All right, so this was test score inputted out of range. Here is array already full. Okay. So now what I'm doing in here is I put in a test score. I'm clicking the add button. I'm going to attempt to take whatever was into that text box, trim it, and convert it into an integer. If I cannot do that, it will throw a format exception where it'll give me a format exception, say that the input was non-numeric, and it'll also give me the system message. If I get down to here, I did put in a number, but it may be an out of range number. Whoops, I'm sorry. If I get down to here, I put in a number, but it may be out of range. So if I put in a number less than 0 or a number greater than 100, I throw a new argument out of range exception, which I catch here, give a message, and clear the form. If I get down to here, I have put in a valid test score, but if the number of elements that I have in my array, if the number of elements that are in my array are greater than or equal to 10, that's illegal. So I throw an index out of range exception, handle that, and clear the form. So finally, if I get down to here, now I can add, okay, there's room in the array. Okay, so I can say test scores and I want to put it into the next element. So I can say number of elements equals score. And I spelled test scores wrong. There we go. And I can do, you don't have to do this, but I put in a show message and it says a grade of so that'll say like a grade of 87 has been added to the test scores array. All right, grade successfully added to array. All right, well, I got to say my number of elements plus plus, I want to add 1 to it. And then I want to clear the form so I can put in another grade. So clear form. Let's see if it works. We'll come back and take a quick look at it afterwards. I mean, knowing me, I could have easily screwed it up. I would never try to do this, but it's possible I have. This is the only one in here, so there's nothing to set for a startup. All right, so let's come in here, 56, add. A grade of, well, that's wrong, has been added. That's okay, we'll fix it in a minute. It's not showing it here. That isn't good. Let's see display scores. Notice the 56 is in there. So that one, it was added, but we're not showing it here. So what does that mean? Well, we added 1 to our number of elements. We did all this other stuff, and we're clearing the form, but we've got to fill out everything. So in other words, we have to say txt, the score should be in there, but score.text equal test, or just score. All right. txt score.text equals score.toString. And I want you to see what I'm doing every time. So let's see if this worked. So again, I'll put in a 56, click add. Well, it should be putting it right there, and it's not. So, it did. That's the score. So now txt score count, that's going to be equal to the number of, score count dot text. That should be equal to the number of elements dot toString. Okay. The txt score total. All right, that's going to be our total of all scores. Well, we don't have a variable for that. So let's put it here, int score total. We do have a variable for that. We put it up here. Test score count and test score total. We need to use these. So this should be test score count is equal to the number of elements. Test score total plus equal our score. All right, now we can fill in those. This is already here. We've already got a test score in there, so we don't have to do that again. So we can say now txt score count dot test score count dot toString, txt score total dot text equals test score total dot toString. Finally, txt average dot text is going to be equal to, all right, this will be ugly, but we could do it another way, but I'm just going to do it like this. We want to say test score total divided by test score count dot toString, but we want to make sure I'm going to cast this to a decimal like that. All right. So that should give us the average. Now let's see if it works. All right, file, save all. 56. I got to fix that. 56, 1, and 56. All right, let's add 60. 60 plus 56 is 116. So this should go to 116. That should go to 2, and that should go to 58. All right, 116, 2, and 58. I'm going to just quick put a bunch of scores in here. So 55, 55. There's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, that I got to do to 2 decimal places, but that's no biggie. So we put in 9. Let's put in a 10th score. Now let's put an 11th score in. This should not work. Index was outside the bounds of the array. The array is already full, and it didn't put it in. All right, so it is working. Couple things to fix. First of all, that message here, a grade of this, has been added. So this shouldn't be test scores. This should be score dot toString. That'll fix that. And this thing that we're printing in here, dot toString, should be N2. Put it to 2 decimal places. Let's try it again. All right, I'm going to keep it simple. 10. A score of grade of 10 has been added. Okay. 20. 30. 40. 50. 60. 70. 80. 90. And 100. That looks like it all worked. That would be 550. There were 10 scores, and 550 divided by 10 is 55. All right. If I try to add another one now, this should fail. It did. And let's see if we can display our scores and if they're in sorted order. Okay, I need a line break there, but they are. All right. Everything appears to be working. All right. So where we've got that. Show message, sorted test array. All right, let's put in here plus a \n. All right, to show the sorted test array. Now, the only thing I didn't do is, stupidly, I put the numbers in order. So let's just reverse that order. 100. We'll put in 89. You can see I'm getting it to 2 decimal places. 76. 88. 43. 12. If you don't like this, don't even put that in there. That's totally fine either way. 66. 77. 60. And 90. All right, now it's all been put in there. Again, if I do put in nothing, I get my error message and nothing changes. If I put in that, I get the other error message and nothing changes. If I put in something out of range, I get that error message and nothing changes. Out of range the other way, error message, nothing changes. If I try to put something in here that's valid, it should fail because I already have 10 scores. And I get that. And if I look at my scores, well, where it says sorted scores, I'm still not getting that, but the rest of them are in order. All right. And I think the reason I'm getting that show message, I think if I put a \r\n, that'll work. So that's the first one. Okay. So that is 8-1. And I'm going to try to make this quick because we can use a boatload of the stuff that we just put in here. So I'm going to come in here and do a file, save all, and immediately come in and create another project. This one will again be, of course, a Windows Forms app. This will be EE8-2. All right. We call the other one, again, what it was, FRM EE8-1. So this one will be FRM EE8-2. Is that how I did the other one? No. All right. Come in here and this will say extra exercise 8-2. We'll immediately just set it up so that its start position is there. So that's done. All right. And I'll change the background color. Okay. Now I'm going to go over to my other one here and I'm going to do a Control A, Control C to copy everything because the interface is the same. All right. I guess the other one I had made a little bit bigger. So let's move that down and we'll move all these down just a little bit. Well, they're locked, so let's unlock them and move them down. That's good enough. Let's lock it back up. Let's change the color of these because that doesn't look very nice. All right, so I've got right now then, I've got my interface rebuilt. Everything has been renamed. All right, it's not showing the form as being renamed, but I'm not going to worry about that. Everything else has been renamed. As always, let's come in just like we did before, and let's set our accept button to add. Let's set our cancel button to clear. It's already set to be center screen, so let's set our tab order. That'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and another view tab order. All right, I'm going to go into my code, and just like I did before, I'm going to get rid of this. All right, and like I did before where I had this, okay, I don't need that anymore, so I'm going to get rid of it, but I have also copied the other one. So this is basically going to be the same program, except for the fact that now we're going to use a list. All right, so we will be using a list, okay? So what you saw before on the last one was we did this. I'm going to grab everything that's in here, all this stuff. All right. Okay. And I'm going to copy this one. We can use all of it except we're going to change one thing, and that is we don't want this. Okay. Instead, what we want is we want a list of type, come on, Jeff, of type int. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to give us an error at first, but I'll show you quickly how to fix it. Test scores equals new list of int, and we're told to give it a size of 10. Now we're getting errors because we need to put up here our using, and again, I can do it automatically or I can let the system do it for me. I'll put them in alphabetic order. So I'm going to put here using dot collections dot generic. This is a typed list. Our error is now gone. It's a typed list because what we are doing in here, all right, what we are doing in here is, all right, we are putting in all integers, whole numbers. All right, it's typed because that's all we're going to allow in here are going to be integers. All right, so let's see if we can copy some of the stuff that we had in here before. What do I mean? Well, let's go back into here, our add. In fact, we'll do the display scores first like we did before. Then the add. Then the clear. And then the exit. Okay, so we've got all that stuff, and we should be able to copy a lot of it over from what was here previously. So there's our clear. All right, and let's put in our exit program or not. And I'll immediately add to the show message. All right, so again, all that stuff is done just like before. So just like before, and now I will be smart enough to make this my startup project, excuse me. All right, and I should be able to come in here now and clear, works, exit, also works. Well, that's good. All right, now there's some good news in here, and that is, again, we're going to be able to steal almost everything that we've done. And what do I mean? Well, with this display scores, I'm going to go back to the other program. And where we've got display scores, I'm going to grab every line of it in display sorted test scores. Copy that to the clipboard. And I'm going to paste that in. I shouldn't have to change a lick in there. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. So we got here test scores dot length. It does, what doesn't it like there? Oh, well, that would have to change, of course. All right, if we're going to do, in fact, we're not even going to do an array copy in here. Okay, so we'll make some changes to it in just a couple minutes. How's that? All right, but what I want to do is I'm going to leave this in here just for now. We'll get the error out of there in just a minute. And I want to go in here in the add. And I'm going to call that, which again does not exist. So we'll get an error, but we'll put it right down here. Now, I'm not trying to waste your time, but I'm showing it to you like this for a reason. And that is there are more similarities between arrays and lists than there are differences. So we copied the whole program in, and we only have 2 errors. And where we have the 2 errors are where we were basically referencing an array. We can't do that anymore. All right, so this was one of them. Okay, now as we come in here, was the other one. Okay, we don't have to do an array copy anymore. Remember, you cannot overfill a list. I want to say that again. You cannot overfill a list. And since you can't, this is going to make this a lot easier. We don't need this copy scores array. We don't need to do any copying. We don't need to do a sort, at least not right here. All right. And let's see. Got sorted scores. Okay, we got a for each int score in test scores. The original name that we had in here. All right, we'll add it. And then the show message, sorted test array. It looks like in mine, I forgot to sort it. I believe that we can sort this. Like I'm going to see right now. So I'm going to say, can we say test scores? It wouldn't be an array. Is there a list dot sort? No. All right, I don't remember how, so go back to my buddy at Google. How to sort a C# list. How to sort a list. List sort method. Well, that looks, because that's right from them themselves. So sort. For sort. Okay. Then the name of it dot sort. Okay, then let's see if we can do that. So the name of it was test scores dot sort. That should put it in ascending order for us. All right. So that's what we've changed there. Again, we got rid of in here the for each statement. Well, that was going, well, we didn't get rid of it. We changed it from test scores being an array to test scores being a list. All right. And let's do this the way we should do this. So let me grab all that, Control X, and I'm going to call sort test scores list. Let's put that right down here. Private void sort test scores list. Paste that in. So we don't have to do any worry in here like we did with the other one. So in other words, when we did the last one, we came in here and made a copy of our test score array. All right. Technically, we wouldn't have even needed to make a copy. We could have just sorted the original. All right. But I did it that way, and we did an array.copy. I don't know if there is a list.copy. We could check that out. I don't really care. All right. But this is virtually the same one that we just wrote. All right. So now we're down to one error, and that's attempt to add test score. So again, you can see what we did in here for attempt to add test score. We still want to do this, which could give us a format exception. We still want to do this, which could give us an argument out of range exception. But guess what? We don't need this anymore. We don't need that anymore because we don't have any more index out of range. Because remember, the system will automatically add to it for us. All right. So let's see. When we're down here, this isn't how you add. This is an array. All right. So if you want to add the score to the list, it's test scores dot add, and then we add score. All right. We can keep our message in there. We can add to our number of elements. We can do all this. Guess what? Believe it or not, I think we're done. All right, so let's take a look and see if indeed we are. So file, save all. So this should be the turquoise one. Okay, so we're working with A2 now. If we put nothing in here, okay, input non-numeric, or if we put that in, same thing, input non-numeric. Format exception in both cases, and we clear it. If we put in something out of range, all right, argument out of range exception, we clear it. Argument out of range exception, and we clear it. All right. Now the difference will be after we add the 10th score. When we add an 11th score. So let's just do this. 100, 90, 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. Again, just like before, 550 and 1055. Now, when we come in here and we enter 0, this would have blown up in the last program. But here, we're up to 11 now. All right. So again, just to further amplify the fact that the difference between writing a program that utilizes arrays versus lists is that lists, as I mentioned yesterday, arrays are early binded, meaning that they're set at compile time, meaning they cannot have their size changed. You can change their contents. You cannot change their size. On the other hand, lists are late binded, which means they're set at runtime, which means you can come in and change the value that's in there. All right. So you can make them bigger. All right. We could even make it smaller if we wanted to add that functionality. When I display my scores, there's my 100. It still is screwed up here. All right. But it is in, oh, no, it looks like it's in, we didn't put it in order. So when we did the sort, test scores.add. So this was it, test scores.sort, sorted test array. I'm going to put in 10 different numbers and see what happens when we do this. Now, for some reason, I've got here sorted. It put them in the original order when I click this. Oh, I guess maybe I didn't click it. I don't know. But now it is 749. It is in order. Now, that was weird. Okay. But again, it appears as though it works. And I'm not even going to lie to you. I just want to tell you, I've got the keys for all this. I don't look at them. All right. Because a lot of times Murach does things differently than I do it. All right. So what I'm going to do, just so you know this, I should already, let's see if I'm correct or incorrect. I've got a folder called C# extra exercises. And right now it says extras from chapters 1 through 7. So there's 4, 5, 6, 7. So I've already written this in my folder called EE. And I've added, there's 8.1 and there's 8.2. Were they written exactly the way I just showed you? They're probably pretty close, if not exactly the same thing. I don't know. All right. But I'm going to see if I can come in here, and I don't know if it'll let me do it or not. So there's, oh, that's chapter 6. Oh, I don't want to do this. So my EE has just got 6, 7, and 8 in it. All right. So what I think I'll do is I'll have to go back later and see if I can add those. Adding existing projects from one folder to another in Visual Studio, pardon my French, it's a royal pain in the ass. I followed Microsoft's instructions, and sometimes it appears to work and sometimes it doesn't, but I'll get it out there. All right, so we have gone over 3 programs today. All right, seems pretty long. I mean, almost like an hour on each one, but just so you know, we first went over the array one where we had the 25 random numbers. All right, and we could go in there and it was the same one we had done earlier, and we had done it as a uh, console program. We went back and did it as a GUI program. Then we went in and we did exercises 8.1, display a test score array, and I just finished 8.2, display a test scores list. All right. A couple of people have emailed me or asked me questions and, basically said, you know, I don't really have any problem like with the clear button and the exit button. It's the rest of it that gives me trouble. And that's because the clear button and the exit button are they're almost the same for every program. The only difference is what are we clearing and where are we setting the focus? And the exit has been virtually the same for every program. All of you by now should be fairly expert in creating an interface. All right. I think if I asked you to create this interface that's right here, you could all do it and do it fairly quickly. All right. Add and display scores, as you'd guess, are the hardest. All right. And that's why they pay programmers. They don't pay them to make pretty interfaces. They pay them for the logic. All right. So, basically, whether it's 8.1 or 8.2, think about what you want to do here. This is a pretty straightforward program. When you click that button, you have to verify that there was something put in here. You have to verify that it was numeric. You have to verify that it was between 0 and 100. And that's whether it's for a list program or an array program. All right. Then you go in and actually, if it's an array, you have to check to make sure that your count isn't already at 10. If your count's at 10, you can't put it in. All right. If you put in nothing or non-numeric or out of range, you're throwing the associated exception. If your count's at 10 and you try to add another one, you're throwing in another exception. But supposing you still have room, you're taking whatever number you put in for the score, you're adding it to your score total, you're incrementing your score count by 1, and then you're taking that score total and you're dividing it by the score count. All right. When you call display scores, you're supposed to have them in sorted order. So you run a sort on the array. All right. And then print it out. All right. And I printed mine out in a message box. I think that's what they did right here. All right. Now I want to quickly, and I mean quickly, okay, I want to show you what we're going to do tomorrow. And I want to show you what we're going to do on Thursday. All right. So for tomorrow, yeah, I've written even more practice programs. I haven't done a write-up for this, but I'm going to show you each of the programs. All right. Take them from the top here. So this is practice 801. And let's do all this. Let's open it. All right. So what's going to happen here when we click a button that says fill array, it's going to fill up an array with, I don't remember how many. It's going to fill up an array with 100 numbers. Those numbers are going to be between 0 and 100. Okay, it's not even going to show them in here. It's just going to make the array. I don't think I showed it in there, but I don't remember. If you click this button, it's going to show you how many of those 100 numbers were odd. How do we know if they're odd or not? We put it in a loop. We divide each one by 2 and look at the remainder. If the remainder is not 0, it's an odd number. So we add it to our list. So this will be one array with 100 numbers. These will be 2 other arrays. Now, the chances of creating random numbers, all right, and having all of them be odd or all of them be even, basically it's so much less than 1%. It's like 0.00000, almost to infinity.
So there should be a number in this one every time. There should be a number in this one every time. So I click this. Oh, wrong one. I click this. Let's see. I tell it to fill the array, and it says the array has been filled. Then out of that array, here's your odd numbers. And if you look at every one of them, I could have run a sort on this. I didn't. And I don't know how many are in there. I don't care. But if I click this, then they're all the even numbers. All right. So in that 100, there should be somewhere approximately 50 of each. All right. Clear works and exit works. All right. So that'll be the first one that we'll do tomorrow. All right. Now I'm a little embarrassed to say when we get to the last one, it's not finished yet. So I'll have to make sure I do that after class today. So these are going to be sales totals. And what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to generate 100 sales totals. Each one of those sales totals, okay, each one of those sales totals, I'm not going to even play with the totals. I'm going to generate a number between 0 and 9. If I generate a 0, okay, then basically we want to add 1 to that column. A 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, a 7, and an 8. All right. So it's really 8. It's 9 of them, but it's 0 to 8. So I'm going to generate numbers, 100 numbers. If the number, what happens in here is you make $200 a week, plus you get a 10% commission of whatever you make. So if you make if you have the sales of $500, you get your 200 plus 10% of 5,000, which would be 500. 200 plus 500 would be 700. So you would add 1 to that counter. All right. So that's the way we're going to do this. And when I run it, oops, when I run it then, okay, the array has been filled. All right. Show the totals. So if you add up all those numbers that are there, they should equal 100. 10 plus 11 is 21 and 8 is 29 and 16 is 45 and 10 is 55 and 11 is 66 and 10 is 76 and 14 is 90 and 10 is 100. If I fill the array again, now I get different numbers. All right, so we'll go through that one. Then for the third one that we will go through, it's a letter count. All right. Now it says enter text into the box below. When you're done, click the count button. You know what I'll do? I'll just go out here, and it doesn't matter where I go to. Okay, but I'm going to go out to that lipsum.org and grab some garbage text. Okay, so I'm going to grab this. Not all of it, just that. Come on, Jeff. Right there. Copy it to the clipboard. Paste it in here. Okay. Click letter search. And it tells me how many times the letter A appeared in there, how many times the letter B appeared in there, all the way through Z. If I counted all of those up, that would be the total number of letters that were in there. I'm not counting spaces. Could do that too, but I didn't. All right. The last one, which isn't finished yet, show you the comment on it. That's this one. And it works partially. Oops. So when I come in here, and let's run it from code mode. So I'll add myself. We'll say programming. And you can see I'm at it. Okay. Let's add Jane Doe. She makes 125,000 and she is in web design. And you can see that's all working. All right, so I'm able to add, this is a brand new control that we're going to look at tomorrow that's called a list view. So the add works, but I want to be able to click here. All right, and I don't know if the update works yet or not. I'm surprised it did that. So I'm going to change this to Jeffrey and I'm going to click update and see that isn't working yet. All right, so I want to be able to come in here. It worked in here, but it didn't change this. And then if I click on one of these and I click delete, I want them to be gone. Clear, I believe, works. Now clear, I didn't do either. And exit works. So that's the last one that we'll do. This will be one that will employ a list. All right, so we will go through these 4 tomorrow. Then the plan is on Thursday, I'm going to go over a couple of the homework problems. You still must do them yourselves. All right, I want all 6 of the homework problems done. All right, but we'll go over a couple of them. I will not save that as a GitHub repo. And then that might take the first, let's just say 2 hours. Then the rest of the period, the last hour and 50 minutes, and all of Friday will both be lab periods. All right. I'm not going to give you a pretest for this. I gave you more practice problems instead. All right. Monday of next week, there will not be class because, again, the school is closed in observance of President's Day. And Tuesday, then, you will have your next test, and it will be solely on Chapter 8. Then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of next week, we're going to go through Chapters 9, 10, and 11. And I'm making it sound much harder than it is. There's not a lot of meat, so to speak, in there. So that's what we're going to be doing this week. That's what we're going to be doing next week. All right. It's 11:20. You've had to sit through this and I didn't give you another break. So you've only had a couple breaks and we've been going for, almost 3.5 hours. I'm going to call it a period. All right. And again, tomorrow we will be going over these 4 problems. Okay. All right. I'll see you later. Have a good day. Thanks.